What's up, everybody? Invite your friends. Hit the thumbs up. Let me move my camera over here a little bit. There we go. We got one thumbs up. That's it. Okay, that's 3. Got 10 people on. What's up, everybody? Tell me where you are, because I'm always curious, because I'm going on a little bit different time than I normally do. I want to see how many people in Europe I hit and how far over. Serbia, okay, that's good. Germany, what time is it in Germany? It's not that late. It's actually good. It's a good time night. Sweden, it's not very late. New Zealand, is it in the morning? East London, Poland, Brazil, Long Island, there we go. Invite your friends. You're here for a rant. You're here for some fun. You know what can happen in my rants. Korea, there we go. It's my wife's home country. I have a new moderator here. My new assistant, Michelle's moderating. You want to say hi, Michelle? Say hi.
Hi.
So Michelle has been working here for a few days. Michelle is and Aaron are both working here now. But see, you got a hi, Michelle. Michelle, can you type in there to see if it works?
Mm-hmm.
You'll see Michelle come up with her moderator wrench next to it.
Yep.
There it is. Yeah. Okay, so Michelle has perfect pitch. I'll just put it right out there. I found that out when she started. And she's had it her whole life, right, Michelle? Michelle, can adults develop perfect pitch?
No.
You have to talk.
I don't think so.
She doesn't think so. She knows that they can't.
Yeah.
Have you ever met anyone that developed perfect pitch as an adult?
They tried, but...
They tried, right? And it didn't work.
Yeah.
And you've had it since you can remember, right? And you started taking piano lessons at what age? 4? 4. There you go. I don't need to send any more. Relative pitch is where it's at anyways. Okay?
Indonesia, not Korea.
Yeah, she's from Indonesia, yeah. From Indo, as she calls it.
Hey.
Okay, so I want to, before I go on, and if you guys hear elephants, my kids and my 2 nephews and niece are upstairs going crazy here. They sound like a bunch of elephants. And I'm going to freak out. I'm going to bring this upstairs and scare them. Anyways, so I'm putting the Beato book on sale, as I do many times here during my live stream. For those of you, I got $10 off coupon to go to myrickbeato.com, and you can enter in the coupon code. Michelle will paste it in there right there. Do I know David Burge's method? I do know his method, and it's total baloney. Sorry, David. And also my PDF bundle's on sale, and Michelle put that in there too. So it's bundle 251 and RR whatever it is, 268, is that right, for the Beato book?
Yep.
$10 off in each. Charles, how are you? Wow, I'm old. No, I think you're maybe responding to someone else. Joe Bonamassa last night, entirely over 50 audience. Yeah, there you go, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about 220 watching my rant. You got to get it up. You got to share it with people right now. Okay, so here's one of my rants that I'd like to talk about, and it has to do with music education, okay? I have a beef, and this has been going on for years and years. This isn't anything that's new. It's happened. The first time I became aware of it was in the year 2000. So most of you don't know my full-time assistant, Ken, or as he's known to most people, GL. I'm not echoing Jeff Berlin, though. This is a totally different kind of thing. And I'm very pro-education. But Ken, or GL, who's been engineering for me for 17 years, and he works for Neural, my other company. When I met him, I was working at a studio in town here, and I'm not going to mention the name of it, but it's the biggest studio in Atlanta. And he was working there. So when I started my producing career, I'd been using an engineer, friend of mine, Billy Hume, who's a great mix engineer and recording engineer and a producer as well. So Billy was engineering for me, and then he started doing all these big rap records with Little John and all these people around Atlanta that were, all the big crunk rappers back at the time. So Billy's like said that you should really do your own thing and engineer the stuff yourself. So I went to this place. I rented a room at this big studio in town, and I started working 6 days a week producing bands. This is in 2000. So I'd be working, 6 12-hour days a week. So they assigned me with an engineer to work with, a guy that would, assist me. And that was Ken. His name is Ken Lanyon. Like I said, 17 years he's been working for me. Still working for me. Working with me, I should say. So Ken went to Full Sail at the time and graduated. He was like, the valedictorian or salutatorian, whatever, of there. Super smart guy. And he starts... he comes into the first session, and I said, "You ever mic up a guitar amp?" And he goes, "Yeah, a couple times." And I said, "What do you mean a couple times? What do they teach you there? And they don't teach you about miking guitar amps?" "Well, not really." And I said, "What kind of stuff do they teach you?" "Well, they teach us how to make coffee, how to go get coffee, how you're supposed to act in the studio, how you're not supposed to talk in sessions." I said, "Well, where's your skills with this? Can you run Pro Tools?" "Well, I'm not very good at Pro Tools." I said, "Well, I don't get this. What do you mean? They teach you how to make coffee?" "Yeah." "And well, what about, can you run Pro Tools?" So I have him sit down at Pro Tools. He doesn't know any key commands. He really doesn't know anything. This is just before Pro Tools, you could buy a Digi 001, or just right at the same time. So people didn't really have him to work on at the time at home. So you couldn't really practice. So anyways, he ended up... he started working for me 6 days a week. And I said, "Have you ever worked on a session before?" He said, "Only a couple." "Well, how long have you been working at this place?" He said, "Over a year and a half or so." And I said, "How much are they paying you?" He said, "Nothing." And I said, "Nothing? What?" He said, "Yeah, they don't pay any interns here." I said, "None of them?" And I'm not ranting on Ken. I'm saying great things about him. He says, "Nothing." I said, "No one here is getting paid?" He said, "No, you'll get paid if you're on a session, but nobody really gets to work sessions." And so he would tell me that, people would work on sessions for 2 years and then just quit and never make any money, and they work at the studio and never work on one session in 2 years, getting no experience at all. And they would have, "Why is there only 47 likes? Jason is right. What is up with this? Come on, guys. 275 people, 52 likes. Come on, hit that like button. How hard is that?" Anyways, so Michelle, what?
Yes. So how long would? Okay. So
Michelle, I'm in the middle of something. You can ask me questions. Type down the questions there.
All right. Okay. Someone asked a question.
Somebody asked a question. People
Yeah.
are asking questions.
Yep. How long will the coupon code stay valid? If
Oh.
Buy the PDF tonight.
I didn't even see that. No, it'll stay valid usually I usually keep it up for about an hour after the live stream. I might keep it up till tomorrow. Yeah, I'll keep it up till tomorrow. How's that? Okay, so anyways, Michelle's getting the hang of this and everything. I didn't tell her when she should interrupt me or anything. Who's Michelle? Michelle is my new, my second new assistant, along with Aaron. And then Ken, who I'm talking about, is my engineer. So like I said, he's been working with me for 17 years. That's a long time. So anyways, so he says, "No, we don't get paid." So this was the first sessions he's working on. He had worked on a few before, so I started working with him 6 days a week. So a few weeks go by, and I drive up to the studio on a Sunday, and he's out there mowing the lawn. And we had just worked 5 days in a row. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "They called me in today." And I said, "Are they paying you?" "No." "Well, how long do you have to do this for?" And he says 12 hours. And I said, "This is baloney." And he goes, "No, this is standard. This is what assistants are expected when they do internships at studios." This still goes on today. Okay, I mean, I don't want to say, but there's somebody in this room that just had a similar experience, and it's not me. So studios will hire you and never pay you for years until you quit, basically. They'll keep using, it's slave labor. They keep using you, and they basically depend on these places like like Full Sail or Berkeley or wherever they go, to take people that have gone and spent a ton of money, as we found out in one of our last live streams, $375,000 for an undergrad degree at Berkeley, and I don't know how much it is at Full Sail. It's probably about the same. A ridiculous amount of money, but what they don't tell you is that there are really no jobs out there that pay anything, okay? Since there's no real budgets for studios, everybody there used to be people that got budgets to do records, okay? So a typical record budget for a new band, and I've said this before in the past, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, would be about $150,000 to $175,000 to make a record, no matter what genre it was. Country record, rock record, a pop record, unless you were signed to a big production company, unless Max Martin signed you or someone like that, then they would make the record themselves. They would take at least 50% of everything you own. They would own you essentially, which is really what happened with the Dr. Luke and Kesha thing, where she signed this deal and he owns her essentially. She can't do anything. And it's the same thing that happened with American Idol, where they made people, they had a company called 19, which was the management company that managed all the American Idol artists. So those artists signed this thing. You couldn't be in the show unless you signed it. And anyone that won, like Kelly Clarkson or anybody everyone that was in the show signed this thing. So what would happen is that, for example, I'll give you Kelly Clarkson. So she made her first record that had massive 10 million records or so. And she was giving half of her money to 19, which is the management company that Simon Cowell and the other Simon that owned American Idol. So they got 50% of everything she made, and then she had a manager at the time that got 20%. So right off the top, 70% of everything she made went to these people, okay? The rest of the 30%, well, she didn't write any of her own songs. Clive Davis she was signed to, and Clive was running RCA and Arista and J Records. And that's what all the American Idol people were going through. So no one got paid back then. She never got paid any record royalties or she never got paid any royalties from songwriting because they'd never let her write her own songs. And then when she did write her own songs, when she got hip to the fact that, hey, I'm not making any money. So you see these people that you think are super rich millionaires, massively big stars that basically make no money. Well, it's the same thing now. The same thing with education. They don't tell you at the schools, unfortunately, that there's no money in these jobs. And there's very, very few jobs like this out there. I had an assistant a few years ago that came in here, and he worked here for a while and went out to LA, and I got him a job as an assistant, and I got him a job. He was an intern that came in for an internship. Now, this is something that's a little different. An internship's like what Aaron came in for from Berkeley, and Aaron came in, and the internship was 8 weeks long, okay? So, So they'd come in, and this kid told me he was moving out to LA. Could I make a phone call for him and see if I get him a gig in a studio? So I got him a gig working for this guy, Ben Gross, who has a place called The Mixed Room that I worked at. And Ben is a great producer and a mixer, has done a lot of really, really big rock records. And Ben hired him. He took him on as an intern and then hired him full time, okay? That's because of the connection, because I know Ben. But the ability to get an internship, but he still had to go out there and work for nothing for a while until he actually proved himself, because Ben didn't really know him. So they don't tell you any of this stuff, that there are no paying jobs, if you think about it. So I've had the same assistant for 17 years who's worked on every single record that I've done in 17 years, okay? There's no room, there's no budget for anyone else. And as the record budgets kept going down, Ken, GL is his nickname that I always call him. So GL always worked for me, and that wasn't an option not having him. I mean, he was part of the whole thing. So he would literally engineer every single record. So, but during all this time, during these 17 years, people have been graduating over and over and over. All these people have been graduating from these recording programs everywhere. and there's no job. And how do you pay back a $300 and some odd $1,000 loan? Well, you can't. So basically what you do and what we saw these people do, and it's hard work. Somebody just said engineers' work is hard work. It's incredibly hard work. What you do is you go intern at a place and your parents help you out for as long as they can. Well, you work for free, and then you finally can't take it anymore. It's actually almost, Thomas, it's almost $400,000. So I've heard. Somebody said last time it's $373,000. So, and I've got nothing against recording programs. I think that they're great, but people need to know, and parents need to know, that there are no jobs in that industry, really. And the ones that are, there are so few of them. It's kind of like trying to play in an orchestra. You need someone, one of the big orchestras, Philadelphia, Chicago, Cleveland, New York. Someone needs to die to get into one of the sections. If you only have 3 trumpet players, you only have 6 French horns, whatever. And these people will play till they're 70 years old. So none of these positions open up. So you have your choice. So you're either a music professor if you're good enough, and to be a music professor at a really good school, you have to be one of the best players. So you have to be good enough to get an orchestra gig, but then you get a gig as a teacher. And many of the teachers, like teachers that taught at New England Conservatory, where I did my master's degree, most of the people on the faculty played in the Boston Symphony. Okay, so that was kind of their home base for the teachers in Boston. For the people that played in the Boston Symphony would teach at New England Conservatory. Okay, not the concertmaster, because they made a lot of money. They didn't need to do it. So what do you do then with a degree? That's really the question. And as a parent, if you have kids that are considering going into this, you have to know what the real choices are. So the real choices are that you have to either make it on your own, okay, by being incredibly good and you become the Chainsmokers, or become, some huge EDM artist or something, or become Rick Rubin, who started out in his college dorm room at NYU, even though his parents fronted him the money to start his label. And NYU is not a cheap school to go to. So Rick Rubin probably had a bit of a trust fund, I'm sure. So he didn't have to worry about about not eating or anything. And if you saw early pictures of him, he's big as I am. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, I need to lose about 30 pounds, maybe 40. Anyway, so it's incredibly, incredibly difficult, just like it is if you're a composer and doing film scoring and whatever it is. Your ability, or your child's ability, to get out there and make a name for yourself is extremely, extremely important. And your ability to network. I mean, I told Michelle, she was interning at another studio, and I said, listen, I hope you don't mind me telling this, Michelle. I'm not going to mention where you were working or anything, but I told her that, listen, no, I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you. No, you're not going to work for free here. I'm going to pay you to work here, okay? I don't do that. I don't do this make people work for free thing. It's ridiculous. That's slave labor. People need to get paid for work that they do, okay? It's like it costs money to live. So once again, this is one of my reasons to do my channel here, is to actually get information out there, whether it's information on, what to play over a Mixolydian scale, how to use a Mixolydian scale, or, how to get film scoring gigs, or how to build a YouTube channel. Okay, so these are extremely important skills. Now, for me, I'm 55 years old. To make a living, if I were to try and make a living in any other thing other than the music business, let's say, if I wanted to start a career from scratch at 55, let's say I got laid off by my job that I've been working for 30 years, like happens to many, many people. What are my options? Well, one of my biggest options are starting my own business. starting a YouTube channel, for example. And in order to do this, in order to be successful at anything, it takes a tremendous amount of energy, and you need to be an entrepreneur, as Jari just said. That is really the key. And that is the thing that needs to be taught. That really needs to be taught to people, is how to be an entrepreneur. That's the most important thing in today's music economy, because that's what this is. It's not enough to be the best at what you do. You can be the best film scorer, you can be the best improviser, anything. But if you can't make a living, if you can't communicate with people, you can't make a living. And communicating with people means you have to convince them that you're the producer to do their gig. Otherwise, you're just working for free all the time. Because essentially, in the production field, since most production now, most people that get signed to record deals are people that already have a massive amount of social media, social proof, as we call it. Social proof would be, I have a song that has 150 million views on YouTube. Okay, that would be social proof. Oh, 20 million views on YouTube. If you had an original song with 20 million views, you'll get signed by a record label. Well, you don't even need to. Look at this Cash Me Outside girl, okay, that did the, did that tune, and she got signed to Atlantic Records because of some stupid thing that she said on Dr. Phil. I mean, she made this thing that became a meme, and all of a sudden, she became huge and she became a huge meme and then got a deal with Atlantic Records. Well, I would bash her song, but I actually like her song. I think that I love the production of her song. I'm not afraid to admit that. I want to hate it, but the vocals sound great on it because I think they're using some type of distortion. I talked about this the other day, but it's really, really. Hold on, I gotta plug my thing in here because it's not going to. It's gonna go dark here in a second. But I love the Cash Me Outside production. I think it's fantastic. So I want to complain about the people that are doing it. I want to complain, like all my friends complain about how the lyrics are trash. But I can't understand the lyrics, so it really doesn't bother. It does not bother me that much. But the vocal presentation the distortion on the vocal is really, really well done. Anyways, but this is a person that, because of a meme that was started from something she said on a TV show, and she became this. She's not a huge star or anything, and the song is not done that well. Okay, but it's an example of what gets signed by record labels now. Okay, so that gets signed, and I know the guy that signed her. He's an A&R guy at Atlantic Records, and I've done projects with him in the past, way long ago in the past. And he signs these things. One of the projects I did was a thing that he signed with. It was a group way back in the early 2000s, and I think I did it with. I want to say it was with Warren Hewart. Warren, who produced Like a Pro, who I actually interviewed for a Sounding Off coming up. Warren's been a friend of mine for years, but I want to say that this was the project we worked on together. But it was Lou Adler's son, it was Dickie Betts' son, and Roy Orbison's son were all in this band. Okay, so this is a thing that got signed that had nothing going on, but because they had famous dads, they signed the band. Okay. This is pre-internet, pre-YouTube and everything. But nowadays, it's things that are successful already. Those are the only things that get record deals, period, for the most part. Nobody goes out and says, you know what? This band really has nothing to go on. It used to be that people would get signed just on a rumor that they might have great songs, or somebody would go out and see them and they think, I'm going to jump on this before someone else does. You used to be able to get people record deals. I could get bands that I produced record deals back, in the early 2000s by telling somebody that so-and-so was interested in something. And all of a sudden there'd be a massive bidding war over it. So somebody asked, how old was I when I started producing? I was 37 when I started producing, and I learned it from scratch. Okay, there's 471 people on here and 200 likes. Where's the rest of those likes? Anyway, so since there are no since there's no people that are really having records made, and for the records that are made, for the bands that are successful, let's say you're Adele or Katy Perry or somebody like that, there are already people, the top people in the business are writing your songs, like Max Martin or Greg Wells. They're producing the tracks, they're doing all the backing tracks, and basically you have the tracks produced for you, so there's no one making the money, essentially. And when there was, the A&R guys would hire their guy or girl, whoever it was, and they would just always give all their gigs to them. And that's kind of how the music business became. Now, somebody made a complaint about my Tom Petty video, and they said, why am I talking about Tom Petty? I should be talking about Joe Zawinul. And this is really interesting because this kind of goes to this core of how the music business used to be when Tom Petty came up. And why am I talking about Tom Petty and not Joe Zawinul? Well, I love Tom Petty's music, number one. Number two, Tom Petty made, an artist like him, made all the money. It used to be 4% of the acts on a major label paid for the entire major label. That means if you're on Columbia Records, okay, and you have a huge hit, and you're one of that 4%, you're paying for all the jazz records, you're paying for all the classical records, you're paying for all the failed A&R decisions, you're paying for everything. You're paying everyone's salary. That is a fact. Tom Petty, because of guys like him and the Beatles, this is why we have the John Coltrane's, or I should say Led Zeppelin, because John Coltrane was on Atlantic. But John Coltrane's records really weren't making money. Led Zeppelin was making money for Atlantic Records, okay? So, when people want to bash these incredibly great artists like that they don't have any clue on because they don't know what a good melody is and what a great melody writer Tom Petty was. Not only a great melody writer, but a phenomenal lyricist too. But they want to complain about this, but all these jazz people that they like, and don't get me wrong, I love jazz, right? I'm a jazz guy. All these jazz musicians never would have gotten a chance to put out a record if it wasn't for Tom Petty's making all the money for the label so that they had all this extra cash to take a chance on artists. I have friends that got record deals back in the late 80s, early 90s that were jazz artists that would have a budget. My friend Iden, for example, they had budget over $100,000 for a jazz record. It never would happen now. Now people are, get signed for nothing. Country artists, things like that, because there's so much production cost and so much cost to promote a record nowadays. To promote a hit song in Nashville, for example, it costs $500,000 to make a song a hit. Not to make a song a hit, because you can't make it a hit. It still has to do it on its own, but you have to push it along until it gets into the top 5. All songs in pop music and rock charts that are in the top 5 make the same amount of money, really, okay, on radio airplay, and that's where all the money comes in. But in order to do that, you need to push it along. And that means nighttime spins if you're an unknown band. So Parmalee, the band I had a number 1 song with, their record got stuck, and they told this story when we had our number 1 party. All number 1 songs, no matter what they are, have a party with them. I know I'm like rambling in different areas here, but anyway, so they have a number 1 party. So at the party, the head of the label got up there and talked, and I never heard any of this stuff. I never paid attention to it, except when it got in the top 20, and a buddy of mine said, you know what, that song's going to be a number 1 song. I was like, what? No way. He says, I'm telling you, it's going to be number 1. So the head of the label got up there and said that the song Carolina was stuck at number 40 on the charts for 8 weeks. And he said, and he went through and chronicled it. He says it hit 40, jumped up to 42, came back to 40. Next week it went down to 39, went back to 40, went up to 43, went back to 40, went down to 37, went up to 39, went back to 40. 8 weeks it was at number 40. Got down to 35, lost its bullet, meaning it got less spins. Once a song loses its bullet, it's gone. Radio people drop it. Even if it gets 1 spin less, say you get 1,501 spins 1 week, and then the next week you get 1,500 spins, they drop your song. Okay? So took a Herculean effort to spend enough money to get the song. And this is just a fact. I'm not saying anything that isn't true. This is how the music business works, how it's always worked for the most part. So they artificially push it, and it's getting nighttime spins. This is with any unknown band until it hits the top 30. When it hits the top 30, it starts getting played on Clear Channel or I think Cumulus stations. And then when it hits the top 20, it gets played on Clear Channel stations. Once you hit the top 20, that's when you have the chance of having a hit song. Okay, then they start playing it in daytime spins. And somebody just said that's why they like YouTube, because it's democratic. It is democratic, kind of. Okay. YouTube's thing is that you all see ads that play unless you pay for YouTube Red. You guys all see, does everybody see ads that play before my videos and before all their YouTube videos? That's the monetization. Well, they put ads that are based on whatever your, I'm a music person, so they put music things on here. They put like Herbie Hancock's Masterclass or Deadmau5 or Hans Zimmer or you've seen all these things, Tessitura Pro or whatever it is that come on before this. Now, those ads, when people, if you ever see them drop off videos, that means that those companies decided, well, they're not making enough money or they've reached their spend limit with Google AdSense and they're dropping it off. So everyone's music channels drop in subscriptions and views. Okay, because YouTube, when there's money coming in to pay for those things, okay, and you see those big name ads, those masterclass ads are really high dollar ads. So when you see those things disappear off there, you know that they're not spending money. And YouTubers, I don't think even realize this. Like you have to think about this. So all the YouTubers, all my friends like Adam Neely, Amy Nolte, people like that, we all start losing. We don't get as many subscribers. We don't get as many views when those people aren't musician is another one, right? Aren't advertising. If they decided that they've used up their budget or they're taking a break for a couple weeks, all companies do this. They regroup. They see if ads are working or not, because usually they're promoting things on multiple platforms. So it does happen with YouTube as well. It's not strictly democratic. Yes, you can share it with your friends. Yes, there's 529 people on here right now. This is democratic. You can share your video, this live stream with people right now. That's democratic. But in order for me to get subscribers and get my channel out in front of people that don't know who I am, it has to be suggested in the side column. And what decides that is how much ad revenue is available to put ads in front of whatever things are music related content, like my channel and Adam Neely and Jeff Schneider and people like that. Or Amy Nolte, all these people that are friends of mine, Piano Around the World, Music Is Win, all these people that I know that are YouTubers that do music-related channels, that have music ads in front of them. So you don't get in that side column if Tessitura Pro or Masterclass is not advertising right then. They're not putting our videos in there. They're putting other people's videos that they're getting paid for. So it's really not completely democratic, but YouTube is as democratic as you can possibly have. Facebook is not democratic at all. Facebook has an algorithm that decides if you have a band channel and you pay, once you've been identified. I never use my artist channel, my Everything Music. I always use my private channel. When you pay and are identified as a payer, Facebook will not push your videos out to anyone. And it's a complete waste of time. If you're in a band and you're watching this, don't waste your money, I hate to say it, on Facebook ads. Just don't. They're not accurate. They don't accurately send them out to the right people. You really, there's no way to know. And I have friends that have actually followed traffic using Google Analytics that have paid for Facebook ads. And they've argued and they've actually gotten their money back from Facebook on this because they could prove it. And one of my friends is going to send me and he's going to send me one of the emails that he got back from Facebook, and I'm going to make a video on it. So anyways, so Facebook does not promote things in a democratic way, and of course they don't pay anyone for it. They have their new channel Play that they develop content for, but they haven't opened it up for people to make a living on it. Now, what does this all have to do with making a living? Well, these are all ways that people make a living in today's economy. And these are the things that need to be taught in college, is how to make a living, how to be an entrepreneur, how to get out there and get your message out to as many people as possible, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm getting my message out. And my message is for you to get your message out. Use social media, make videos. If you do, the thing about YouTube that's great is that it's all video content. Whereas Facebook, they don't tell you, if you put out a static post with no video attached to it, it has no juice. It goes out to no one. They want to reserve their timeline for people that are payers. And once they've identified payers, they'll make you pay. And they'll actually, I guarantee you that their algorithm will take your money, and then it'll get to a point where it's like, okay, this person is a consistent payer, so we're not going to push it out to as many people. And there's really no way, there's really no way to know what's going on with it unless you follow the analytics with it. So these are things that need to get taught in college, though. Like, how do you actually get out of college and make a living? One of the ways to not make a living is to go work for free at a studio. There are no studio jobs. The only way you're going to make a living in the studio business is to go out on your own and become a producer, become an engineer, find people to work with, find artists to work with, make your own music, and get it out there. And I tell people, if you're an artist, you need to be making, if you're a pop artist, R&B artist, EDM artist, you need to be making video content for every single video. Lyric videos, for every song that's a single or that you think is a single. You need to be making video content constantly and interfacing with people. This is really understanding social media. It's the same thing with Instagram, with any type of social media, because there is money to be made. And I have people that came in here that I just did this TV show called Step Up that's coming out on YouTube Red. It's like a music-oriented show that Lionsgate is doing. And we had all the people come in that are on the cast, and they came in and sang songs. I didn't write any of these songs or anything. All we did is track the vocals and go out to the live the shootings and make sure that all the tracks were playing properly and the people were lip syncing right and everything like that. And they came in, the artists that were the actors in the show came in and did their own vocals, so there wasn't anything like that. But anyway, so these people, one of the girls has these dance videos that she has on Instagram. She had millions of followers. She had amazing dance routines, and she dances in the video. And people pay her to post things in her Instagram because it has power. Those subscribers are equal to money for them. Okay, so this is really a she's an entrepreneur. She went out there and developed this herself. She went out, made the dance routines. I asked her about it. It's like, how did you do this? She hired people to come in and film it, to edit it. She did the choreography. She had friends come in, do dances. It was amazing. They had original tunes that friends at first wrote, and she did dance routines for them, and it was great. That is being an entrepreneur there. That is how you make it in the music business today. That needs to be taught in music schools. If you're going to pay $375,000 for a gig, they better damn well teach you how to make a living when you get out. So your parents aren't on the hook for it, or you're not on the hook for it for, $375,000 when you can't pay it back at all. Anyways, questions. Oh, Beato book is on sale right now during this live broadcast. What is the thing, Michelle? Paste it in there. Mm-hmm. Michelle's my new assistant here. She's sitting over here patiently. Somebody said, who gets that $375,000? That's the school gets it. They pay for the faculty. They're sitting on some of the most expensive property. At Berkeley, they're sitting on some of the most expensive property that there is. But, at Berkeley, Full Sail, I mean, they're Middle Tennessee State. They're all over the place. It's not just Berkeley. There are schools all over the country that are putting out recording, engineering majors, and production majors where there are no jobs. Somebody said, what is the Beato book? It's a book I wrote It's 300 and some odd pages. It basically teaches all the stuff all the concepts that I talk about in my videos. Not all of them. I don't get into orchestration and things like that. But it's all the theoretical and improvisation concepts that I talk about in all my videos. Okay, so here's Nelson says, what about in the jazz world and its related genres? Okay, so Nelson, are you saying what do you do about that? Well, it's the same thing. In the jazz world, there's no difference between the jazz world and the classical world and the pop world, okay? Rock world, whatever. It's still about how you interface with the community. And somebody just said there's no money in jazz. Well, there's money in jazz for only a few people. Those few people are Brad Mehldau or Wynton Marsalis. It's like however the people that were either famous before in the 80s like Wynton or Pat Metheny or whoever, people that are out there that still command, Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett, Herbie Hancock, that still command a following and still command big audiences when they tour, those people are worth money, okay? But to break in as a new artist, you got Jacob Collier, you have Joey Alexander, young kids like that. I saw some of the, those are the people, I saw the thing about student loans, right? How do you get out of paying student loans? 3 times? Okay. Somebody asked, how do you get out of paying student loans? Well, one way you could do it is you can actually negotiate your debt with a student loan company. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually do that. If you can get somebody to lend you the money, I have plenty of friends that have done it. As a matter of fact, I did it with my student loan. I borrowed $8,000 because I went to school back in the Stone Age, and I borrowed $8,000 total for my undergrad and master's. This is, 35 years ago. And I remember when it was done, I got out and I got a college teaching gig. And I saved up money, and I'd heard, this is before there was, I don't even think there were fax machines back then. Somebody told me, one of my friends said, you can negotiate your student loan payoff. I said, what? Yeah, you can. If you can get, sometimes they'll take 80% of what you owe. So what I did is I wrote to them. I said, listen, I want to pay off my loan, but I'm not going to pay I don't want to pay the entire amount. How much will you take in a payoff? If I pay you $6,500, will you take it? It was something like that. And they wrote me back and they said, yes, we'll take it. Or I called them and they waited a week. They sent me a letter and they said, yes, we'll take it. And I wrote them a check and I paid. It ended up being about, I think it was 85% of what my loan was worth at the time. And if you can get people if you can get somebody to loan you money, you can actually get a tremendous reduction. Otherwise, you'll be paying on these loans forever. Okay? I have plenty of friends that are 40 years old that are still paying student loans. It's unbelievable. Okay? This is what I want people to avoid that are going to these schools and getting out there where there's just no work for them. And what you don't want to do when you get out of school, because all student loans have a grace period, usually about 9 months after you get out of school till you have to start paying back. Well, the last thing you want to do is you don't want to be out there being an intern for someone making no money, because really you should have the knowledge to do it on your own. That's what going to school is about. It's not to make coffee for people and go get coffee at Starbucks and go get their meals for them for free for a year and pay out of your own pocket for all your gas money and everything. That's ridiculous. You go to school to get the skills to do this yourself and go into business for yourself. Okay? This is really what it means to be an entrepreneur and grow a business. And that's what you are doing. It's no different than starting Home Depot or starting Amazon or anything like that. You're starting your own brand and developing your own stream of income. And hopefully you hire people and improve the economy that way. Now, somebody just asked, do I think pop songwriting is still worth pursuing and pitching to artists? It's difficult to pitch things to artists. I'll tell you why. Okay, I've had a publishing deal on and off since 1991. I signed my first publishing deal with Polygram in 1991. And, And when I had my country hit, I decided, well, my publishing company, Sony, I'm signed with Sony now, said, would you, we want you to come up here and write country songs with people. Now, I'd only written one country song, and it went number one. So I didn't really know about writing country songs. So I went up to Nashville, and they put me together with all the top songwriters. I've talked about this. I was writing about 3 songs a month because I had production work here that actually paid. All songwriting is speculation, and you need to either have money, you're getting a draw from your publishing company. If you have a publishing deal in Nashville, they give you what they call as a draw. It's all recoupable money. For a new artist signing a publishing deal in Nashville, you get $20,000 roughly, okay? And what that is that it will pay you $2,000 a month or so, and you'll pay your expenses with that or whatever you can and work a job, and then they'll hook you up with songwriting sessions in the building. You literally go to the Sony ATV building, Warner Chappell building, or any of the places that are music publishers, and they'll hook you up with other writers to do co-writes. And so usually, it always was 3 people. They're trying to get out of that now because they're realizing that splitting the money between 3 people doesn't go very far for the publishers. So you get together, and typically a writer in Nashville that I worked with, and everyone I worked with had #1 songs, multiple #1 songs, the biggest people out there. They would write 30 songs a month. I was able to write 3 songs a month because I only went up there for 3 days a month. And I'm not going to move to Nashville, and I couldn't compete with them. So it was completely pointless for me to do that. Now, I may not be as good a songwriter as you, so I can't say, is it worth it to do that or not, because I don't know how good you are. You may be Max Martin. You may be the next Max Martin. So that's a question I can't answer. For me, in my own personal thing, it wasn't worth the money to go up there and spend the time when I had production work that was paying. That's the one thing about being a producer, is that producing actually pays like a job, where you do the job and you get paid at, half up front and then half when you would complete, or before you send the masters out, is typically how any of my friends that are producers would do it. So anyways, that's pretty much my answer to, is it worth it? It could be incredibly worth it. It depends on how good you are. Any other questions, Michelle, that you've seen? Okay, give me some here.
All right. First, liberal tar. What are your thoughts on not getting paid enough for your work? I play with a huge singer and barely get 1% of what he's making. I cannot quit because he gigs quite frequently. What to do?
That's a tough thing. If you don't have another gig, it's hard to quit your gig. That's the first thing I'd say, is like, don't look for another gig. Don't quit your gig and try and look for another gig. Look for another gig before you quit. Okay, because somebody's always going to be interested in the person that has a big gig beforehand. It's not easy. They're never going to pay you what you're worth, because they have their managers and all these people that have their hand in their pockets. The artist, if it's a big artist you're working for, typically, unless they've been around for years and years and they didn't sign a 360 deal, they're already giving 50% of their publishing away that they did for a cash advance 5 years ago or whatever. Whenever they re-up their deal, they're giving away merch, they're giving away all this stuff. So the salaries for the sidemen, are pretty much set, and they're only going to pay X amount. And unless you become somebody that has a lot of fame, I'll give you an example. Pat Metheny was touring with Antonio Sanchez, who was his drummer with the Pat Metheny group for years. I saw him play at Symphony Hall here. Antonio wrote the music to Birdman, and he won the Academy Award for the best score. Well, he's not going to work, I guarantee you. I don't know Antonio, I don't know Pat. Antonio's not going to work for what he worked for when he was playing in the Metheny group, or what he worked for before he had an Academy Award. No way. So what did Pat have when I saw him? Pat had 2 no-name sidemen, a side woman. He had a female bass player and a no-name pianist that were getting paid very little money. I guarantee you, because Pat was having to pay Antonio twice as much as he paid him before. because he had name recognition. So how do you make yourself more valuable to these things? Because every sideman needs to negotiate their own deal with the artists that they work for. And typically, unless you're the MD, which stands for music director, those are the people that get paid more money. And if you can make yourself more valuable and do that, that's incredibly important. If you can win awards, if you have a massive social network following, and I don't mean Facebook, I'm talking like on YouTube, Instagram, any place that you have a massively big following, that can make you worth more money, period. It can. Because essentially you're bringing in notoriety with you. If you have, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube or something. And that's worth something, you being a known entity. Well, it's hard to get 500,000 subscribers if you're out touring with somebody. So that's the other, that is the other part of this. So anyways, it's tough. It's really hard to get paid more because it's hard to make yourself, because you basically have to convince the artist management to think that you're worth more money and worth paying more. Michelle, yes? What else?
Have you done an interview with Brian Hanner Sr.?
No, but actually I heard from Brian and I'm going to be doing one with him.
All right, and then...
That's Sinister Gates' dad.
Wow, Matt Stark 91. He's asking about, that's a private student loan. I'm talking about getting out of federal loans.
Getting out of federal loans? Well, you can always default. No, I'm not saying that. I would not never default, but I wouldn't say. I would recommend getting a job that can pay you enough money that you can pay your loans. That's what I say. Somebody asked a question here. What about classical music conservatory taking from Europe? I just deleted somebody's message by accident. Sorry about that. You just re-ask that, Gabrielle. Whatever you asked.
I have another question if you want.
Okay, go ahead. What is it?
Okay. Hey Rick, long time no chat from Chris Mitchell. What's your opinion of someone like Mr. Steve Albini, who refuses royalties, leaving millions on the table?
Well, okay, so Steve Albini, he refused royalties. The only time that there were millions on the table was when he produced Nirvana. That was the only time. And there's not millions anymore, so that's really kind of a false argument there. When Nirvana put out In Utero, that sold probably, I don't know if it sold 10 million records worldwide. Typically, so back then, a producer's, he mixed the record, so he would have gotten, but I don't think he took a mixer's point. He got 3 points on it, or he would have gotten 3 points on it. 3 points at the time basically was $300,000 per million. So let's say it sold. Can you look up what In Utero sold worldwide? Nirvana, In Utero. It's way before your time. There was a band called Nirvana.
I know.
Michelle's 21, right? Are you 21?
Yes, I'm 21. What's the name of the album?
In Utero.
Oh, I know that.
Okay, so depending on how many it's sold, so it's it sold 13,250. Somebody beat you to it. Okay, 13 million. 13 million. So what's 13 times 300,000? How much money is that? That's millions of dollars. 13 times 300,000. Anybody? Going once, going twice. Come on, Michelle. 13 times 3. Well, 10 times 300,000 is 3 million. So he left almost $4 million bucks, right? He left almost $4 million on the table. He did leave millions of dollars on the table then, though. But In Utero doesn't really sell anymore. So what do I think about that? I think it's ridiculous. Why did he do it? What is there? Does anyone care that he did that, though? And I love Steve Albini and everything. I respect his ethic, and I love listening to him talk about music. I think he's got a great, great mind for it, and I'd love to interview him. But what do I think about somebody that gave away $4 million? I don't know. Doesn't sound very smart to me, but, that's up to him. I love Nirvana. Nirvana is absolutely one of my favorite bands. Somebody said that they love Nirvana. People can't believe, because I talk about modern classical music, jazz, and all these things, that I love rock music. I've been a rock producer for 25 years. I grew up with the Beatles and the Stones and the Who and Zeppelin, and, that's and I love grunge. Okay, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, the Smashing Pumpkins. I love all that. Screaming Trees. That was some of the greatest time period ever. So, but Nirvana is literally one of my favorite groups ever. Joe says 2.3 after taxes. Joe knows that, okay? So, Joe 2 Now, Joe, would you give away $2.3 million? Does that sound like a smart business decision? I mean, it's ridiculous, right? I know you wouldn't, Joe. I know Joe. So anyway, Steve Albini, it seems kind of crazy to me. Why is Nirvana one of my favorite bands? Because I love Kurt Cobain's melodies. They're incredibly sophisticated. Who gave away $4 million? Steve Albini gave away $3.9 million, we figured out, with his 3 percentage points. You have to recoup the cost of the record, and that record probably weren't massively big costs anyways. But I mean, it long recouped. I mean, it would have recouped it probably 500,000 albums sold. And then they keep your money in escrow and then they pay you out after. So he just basically gave away money. That money that he didn't take in production went back to the label. That makes no sense at all. So, says I have a bad connection here. Can you see me on there?
Yeah, it used to be bad, but now it's working again.
Is it working again? Okay. Anyways, it says very bad connection. Let's see if I move over here. So I would say that quarter-tonal music. Yes, quarter-tone music. Quarter-tonal music. Have I ever experimented with that? Of course I have. I play the guitar. I experiment with it every single time I pick up the guitar, and I bend the string kind of halfway up. I did a little video. I'm going to talk more about microtonal music in some future videos. Anyway, so this was my rant. This is my rant on the music business and on getting paid what you're worth, okay? This is incredibly, incredibly important. Don't sell yourself short, okay? That's my one thing that I know I pronounced my last name wrong. Beato is how I pronounce it, but that's how my parents pronounced it, so they didn't speak Italian. Well, my mom kind of did. Anyways, I've got my book on sale. I'll keep it up overnight. You guys are awesome. Thank you for hanging in there. Tell all your friends to subscribe. I only see 385 likes. Hit that like button here. Leave me questions for things that you want me to talk about in my future videos coming up. I have the Beato Academy of Music is live. I've got my mastering modes on the major scale. I have one more video that goes with it. Any of you that have signed up for that, I've got one more video to put up there that I've had problems with the video, and I'm fixing it right now. I should have it up there tomorrow. But it's the kind of the summary video where I actually go over the how to use the stuff. So you guys rock. I love it. Joe, you're the man. We'll see. Leave me topics that you want me to talk about in here too. All right. And tell everybody about my channel. And for those of you that are not subscribed to my channels, hit the subscription button right now. Thank you so much. Bye.